says, I don't care, you can provide my identity. And it's only as of August of last year, I think Councilmember Burnett was looking at the forms that you're talking about. All that language about confidentiality wasn't built in until recently, so that people know when they come in, if they grab that form and read it, they should know this process is confidential. And there even a provision in the rules of procedure that says a violation of the confidentiality could be a basis to dismiss that complaint. I don't think that's ever occurred, but that is a possible consequence for someone who doesn't follow those rules. And the rules are available to anybody who asks for them. And also, again, as Madam Clerk was saying, are going to be available online. So should be a lot clearer for people going forward in terms of what the expectation is if you're filing a complaint or if you're requesting an advisory opinion.
Anything else for these gentlemen? All right. Thanks, guys.
I appreciate it. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Next up, we have the Hagerstown Choice Neighborhoods Initiative Implementation Grant. Margie Joe, Rachel Paul, and Sean Griffith.
Thank you. So I'm sure by now you're all familiar with the Choice Neighborhoods initiative administered by HUD after our many appearances here to update you on the transformation plan that was completed last fall. We're here today because we have the opportunity to apply for the Choice Neighborhoods Implementation Grant to put that transformation neighborhood. So the notice of funding opportunity actually came out much later than usual, and we were unsure if the implementation portion of this initiative would even be funded. The maximum grant amount is somewhat less than what we had hoped for, but there is still up to $26 million available to bring the transformation plan to life. At this time, it's unclear whether the program will continue to receive funding in future years.
HUD does require various levels of leverage across each element of the plan, that is for the housing, neighborhood, and people process. However, the same leverage may be applied in multiple categories. Also, for the grant this year, FY23 planning grantees and prior years are the only groups eligible to apply, as opposed to past years for the implementation grant, where if a large enough city met the criteria without going through the planning grant process, they'd be allowed to apply. So that also gives us a little leg up. The leverage required does not require any new or unbudgeted funds in support of the application and requests commitment for already planned investments. Our participation is to demonstrate coordination, alignment of priorities, and long-term commitment to the neighborhood over the next 8 years.
So I just wanted to point out a couple other quick notes that are in the application. Currently, like I said, it's 26 million. Originally, the grant was 50 in prior grant years. They did reduce it because there's only a total of $75 million available, and they're looking to make a total of 4 awards. We're hoping that if the appropriations go through and there's at least a continued resolution, there may be additional funding that goes towards Choice, and hopefully they just kind of build that in and award additional funds based off this notice of funding. Of that $26 million, 15% of that will go towards the people side of it, 10% will go towards the neighborhood, the surrounding communities, and the rest will actually go towards the housing plan. Going to leverage, which I think was a big topic that we've had internally, there are 4 different categories of leverage that we need to go after to get the maximum points. The state and local government, and I'm going to walk through these numbers so I can kind of explain them a little bit more. The state and local government leverage is 13 million. Neighborhood investment or leverage is 25 million. Housing leverage is 39 million. And the people leverage is 1.95. So as an example, the state and local government, like Rachel was saying, can be double dipped into other categories. So as an example, the Housing Authority received a $5 million grant from the state towards the Mueller building for historical tax credits. That counts as state or government leverage. So there's $5 million right off the bat there. Those funds can also be double dipped into any planned activities the city is looking to do. I think that the 10-year plan's up next. Those kind of activities would go towards that leverage and count towards the local government leverage as well as the neighborhood leverage. So like Rachel and Marty were saying, we're not asking the city to front any money, but what we need to do is identify what the plans are over the next 8 to 10 years and identify those into a letter of support, basically stating these are the planned activities we're looking at, and we're looking to use that as that leverage. So again, we're not looking for any new funding streams, any new projects. We just want to piggyback off the existing plans the city's already looking to do. Last Thursday, I did present this to my board. They did give us approval to move forward and to fund the consultant to move forward with this application process. We are looking to continue our relationship with WRT, who worked with us through the planning grant, got us the grant. They are looking to bring in another partner to work with us on the people side of it, a company called USI. We're pulling in our developer partner that helped the Housing Authorities procure the Housing Authority, and hopefully we get a positive nod today, and the city will all be involved in putting this application together and ultimately implementing it if we're successful.
The deadline date for application is March 9th, so it's coming up on us really quick.
And an award date of the end of August is when they'll make those awards.
So I was gonna ask that question.
Any other questions?
No, I mean, I think the city being a co-applicant makes sense. I mean, you guys are great partners along this journey. Why not add our name to it?
Absolutely.
Everybody else?
Yeah, I would like to say, as I know, like the funding that we were going to get has been dramatically reduced. But what I was hoping for is if it's any possibility that any of it can be allocated to help with jobs down in that area, especially since considering that major work will be in the Jonathan Street area. Is there any way that we could help with job opportunities and that funding can be set aside for that?
So the short answer is absolutely yes. That will be part of the plan. The 50% that goes towards the people or supportive services is designed to do just that.
Oh,
Help
good.
people become more self-sufficient, find employment, and ultimately move out of our communities and into some of the other communities within the city. So there is going to be a big investment in that aspect.
Now, once everything is said and done, like how would you promote that to that area? Like to that area, it would just kind of be like, hey, this is what's available, and I know it can only be so many positions available. Would it just kind of go out like that? Like this is available if you would like the opportunity to apply, or you know?
So the answer to that question is I really don't know. So USI is a company that WRT, who is a consultant that worked with us before, that's what they do. That's their area of expertise, is the people side of that and doing exactly what you're describing. So they'll be part of this application process, and they'll define what that's going to look like and what it should look like for our community. And then they'll actually be here to also implement that. So we don't really have the resources at the Housing Authority to do that. So partner with them, we'll bring those resources into the city to help with that.
Okay, thank
It's,
you.
it's the same group when we went to Baltimore for the choice trip. It's the same group who worked down there. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
Anything else? Everybody good with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
You go. Thank you. Next up, a presentation of our 10-year downtown plan for Doug Reeser.
Good evening. So we're here to present the final 10-year downtown plan. We're going to be joined by Urban Partners and MKSK. Chris Lincolnow and Luis Calvo should be joining here virtually here momentarily. Just a quick introduction of what they're going to be talking about for the presentation is Last month at the December 16th work session, we reviewed an executive summary of the plan. So the consultants have completed the full plan and the document in a booklet format, which is included with your packet. And we're going to be looking for adoption of that plan at the January 20th, 2026 regular session. The plan was funded in part by a federal grant through the Appalachian Regional Commission. And we are looking for that adoption to complete the plan in that regard. Luis and Chris looks like they're up virtually, so I'm going to turn it over for them for a short presentation explaining the final plan. Looks like we might have a sound issue. Eric can help with that. One second. So while we wait for the sound to be figured out here, the project is intended to provide data and community support for realistic, achievable strategies that will continue to generate momentum and help the city and investors make decisions that create value, manage risk, and improve prospects for success, which included extensive community engagement that we reviewed last month. And we'll see if we can get sound. Looks like we're still missing audio from Chris. Not sure if we have.
Yes. Okay. Doug, would you mind if we let them give an opportunity to fix the issue and we'll move on?
Sure,
further, and then
we can do that,
we'll come
absolutely.
right back soon as they
Yep,
get.
absolutely, we can do that.
Okay.
Yep. Hang tight, guys.
All right, we'll move on. We'll come back as soon as possible on that. Next up is, we'll go over the preliminary agenda review. It will be, first up, call to order, invocation, then pledge to the flag. We'll have our announcements, rules of procedure effective November 18th, 2025. Use of cell phones during meetings is restricted. All correspondence for distribution to elected officials should be provided to the city clerk and should include a copy for the city clerk for inclusion in the official record. Our meeting schedule for February is Tuesday, February 3rd, 2026 is a work session at 4 p.m. Tuesday, February 10th, 2026, work session at 4 p.m. Tuesday, February 17th, 2026, work session at 4 p.m. And Tuesday, February 24th, 2026, regular session at 7 p.m. We'll have 3 proclamations, Catholic Schools Week, Law Enforcement Appreciation Day, and Martin Luther King Jr. Day. We'll have our citizen comments. 30 minutes are allotted for citizen comments for items germane to City of Hagerstown business. Again, we want to reiterate, anyone wishing to speak during regular session must pre-register using the form on the city's website no later than 24 hours prior to the scheduled start of the meeting. Failing to pre-register accurately may result in a speaker not being permitted to speak. Speakers will be called in the order they are pre-registered, and each speaker will have 3 minutes to speak. We'll have our minutes for December 2nd, 2025, December 9th, 2025, and December 16th, 2025. Then we'll move on to our consent agenda. Under engineering, Greens at Hamilton Run, Hole 5 relocation, Beachy Companies, New Market, Maryland, $258,188. 2025 to 2026 tree planting program, Botanical Enterprises, Boonesboro, Maryland, $77,750. Under communications, we'll have website annual fee renewals, Civic Plus LLC, Dallas, Texas, $14,746.05. Under information technology, Barracuda Essentials Compliance Edition annual software renewal, System Source, Hunt Valley, Maryland, $39,744.38. ESO Fire RMS Incident Management Annual Software Renewal, ESO Solutions, Dallas, Texas, $22,655.84. Under police, Viewport Rifle Shield Level 3, Safeware Incorporated, Lanham, Maryland, $25,012.98. 2025 Ford Interceptor all-wheel drive, Keystone Ford, Chambersburg, Pennsylvania, $45,800. Idegen All-Track annual subscription for January 26th through January 2027. Sunrise, Florida, $14,459.93. Omnigo Software, Physical Evidence Base and License, Omnigo Software LLC, St. Louis, Missouri, $16,859.20. Under Public Works, Landscape Bed and Ground Maintenance, Custom Landscape Management Incorporated, Boonesboro, Maryland, $114,727.25. There's no unfinished business. New business, we'll have approval of a resolution amendment to contract with Vera Mobility, red light camera contract. Approval of resolution, Eastern Panhandle Swim Club user agreement. Approval of resolution, deed of easement for speed camera on Marshall Street. Approval of a resolution, deed of easement for speed camera on Pennsylvania Avenue. Approval of resolution, approval for the city to serve as co-applicant for the HUD Choice Neighborhoods Implementation Grant. Approval of a retainer agreement city legal services with Salvatore Morgan. Approval of the contract with the Ferguson Group. Approval of a 10-year downtown plan and implementation strategies. Approval of holdover extension, Maryland Department of Labor, and approval of memorandum of understanding with the State Highway Administration. We'll have our city administrator comments, mayor and council comments, and then we will adjourn. All right, that sounds nice. What are we, can you hear us, guys? I guess not.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, there you go. Now we got you. All right. Doug, you ready again?
You can hear us, okay?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Great.
All right.
Thank you. So again, this is Chris Lakenau and Luis Calvo with Urban Partners and MKSK. This is the 10-year plan. I'll turn it over to Chris and Luis to review the project.
Great. Thank you, Doug. And can you see the screen? Can you see the presentation?
No, it's not coming up right now, but I've got a copy of it here, so Eric can hopefully switch it over and I can guide us.
Okay.
Okay.
Doug, do you think if I stop share and try again, it might help?
I think we're good. I can lead the, if you can just walk us through where we're on the slides that we're on.
Okay. Thank you so much. Great to be back. Happy New Year, everybody. As you recall, we were there about a month ago. As Doug mentioned, we went through an executive summary of the plan in quite a bit of detail. Tonight, we're going to just touch on some of the finer points, update you on some things we've added since. We've got a few more exciting renderings. And then, of course, we'll take your questions and answers at the end. I wanted to start with a quick overview of our engagement process, so I'll hand it over to Luis to cover that quick.
Thanks, Chris, and good evening, everyone. My name is Luis Calvo, an urban planner with MKSK. We've been working with Chris and the Urban Partners team on the engagement side and the catalyst opportunity side. So Chris and I presented an overview of the engagement on the following slide. And last time they were there, there you go. So since then, we've updated the slide to reflect that we've added another 40 or so participants to the process as folks attended a third community meeting. We've had a fantastic time engaging with Hagerstown residents. We had 3 community meetings, attending community events. MyDowntownHagerstown.com has been active throughout with project information and online surveys that Chris and I have shared the results of last time, and one-on-one interviews. Overall, about 1,800 Hagerstown voices engaged in the process. So a lot of great things that helped shape this plan. If you can move to the next slide and the next one after this. The thousands of comments and conversations, ideas, things that people submitted as part of activities in the online survey. There's a lot of things that went into this plan, but the way that we organized this is these 4 kind of key things that we heard from the community. The first is that people love what Hagerstown has to offer now, the anchors, but they want to continue this vibrancy. They want more businesses of retail, more mixed-use development, and addressing some of the ongoing vacancy. People also told us that they wanted to address some gaps in connectivity, improving streets and alleys, expanding the cultural trust, and people told us they really already enjoy about downtown, improving connections to residential areas outside of downtown, and maybe slowing cars down once they reach the downtown area and make it a little safer for pedestrians. In the next slide, you see the other two categories, which is that people wanted to see downtown celebrated. So downtown is special, it has a lot of really great assets, and it is an architectural gem in the region. People really wanted to showcase this. One of the ways that people asked us to do it is to take through how to add more green space with gathering areas in downtown, how to enliven downtown with public art and placemaking, and how to continue to activate and program downtown so it keeps attracting folks from across the region that perhaps need to rediscover downtown from the last time they're there, but they haven't been there in a long time. And lastly, people told us that downtown should be a little bit more welcoming. There's safety, and then there's the perception of safety. So there's two distinct things people really wanted to feel safer and have downtown feel more welcoming. And for that, they feel like downtown needed to improve its overall image and perception. As people are doing that, they see an opportunity to attract more tourism, especially from outside of the region, folks that haven't discovered Hagerstown. People said that to attract more people, you essentially need more things to do and to see. So attracting more activity, kind of going back to the vibrancy. So all these things, thousands of comments, a lot of great things that went into the plan that really helped shape how we understood the ideas, how we developed some of the concepts that you'll see later in the presentation. But they're also grounded in market reality. So I'll go back to Chris so he can talk a little bit about that aspect.
Great, thanks, Luis. Yeah, you kind of took the words out of my mouth. I was going to say exactly how those translated into, the projects we suggested. It's really a combination of, our market research, the community outreach, the stakeholder feedback, all those things kind of work together. So I'll give you a real quick synopsis of the market analysis. We wanted to just make sure that, the recommendations as part of the 10-year plan we're grounded in reality, if you will. We looked at a series of different market types to identify the potential for uses downtown of some of these concepts. So we looked at housing, both for sale and rental. We looked at retail, hotel, office, commercial, and entertainment. And really quick, in terms of opportunities, for sale housing, we think we need to kind of monitor the market a bit more. And you'll see later, a little later, we suggest reinforcing the existing housing stock both in and immediately adjacent to downtown, and that really ties it well with the Choice Neighborhood Plan. So that the partnership on that is very exciting. The rental housing market, we think there is a pretty good opportunity there. You've got some great new additions to your downtown market in terms of market rate rental apartments. We think there's opportunity for more, maybe even in a more modestly priced price point to attract even more folks downtown. On the retail side, there's particularly a lot of restaurant opportunity, I think, which we think ties in well with Hagerstown's reputation already as a great restaurant town and a region of draw. So that opportunity, we think, will further enhance that label of Hagerstown to draw folks for dining. Hotel, we looked at your existing hotel market, understanding that there are a couple new ones under construction. Despite that, however, based on your hotel demand and occupancy, we do think there's demand for another hotel, probably starting in a year or so, once those other ones come online. And our thought is there's no reason why downtown couldn't be the location for a new hotel. So we do think that's a great opportunity. On the office side, the office market's a little more questionable, even nationally, after COVID has changed a lot of working habits. However, we do think because there's not a decent sized Class A kind of office building, if you will, downtown, it might attract a user. We do think there's an opportunity for that, especially if somebody suggested that they do want to be a committed user and they think downtown would be a good location. So we think that that's still important to consider. And then from an entertainment standpoint, There is some development going on outside of town on the entertainment front. But we do think there's some opportunity to add to the arts and cultural district with some smaller scale, perhaps, movie type or, bowling lanes, that kind of thing, maybe mixed with some live entertainment, but just some additional things to enhance the restaurant and the arts and cultural scene downtown, excuse me. Okay, so I will move on then to the key downtown opportunities. So based again on all that research and community outreach and feedback, and we had a series of stakeholder interviews and focus groups, got all kinds of information. And as a result, we came up with a series of 3 buckets, if you will, of downtown opportunities, starting with catalyst sites, and then streets and open space opportunities, which Luis will go through, and then he'll hand it back to me to end with a discussion on some of the programmatic opportunities. So I wanted to start with the catalytic site opportunities, and you'll probably remember some of these that we went through last month. This map shows them all in one place. And the reason these were selected really is, there's a combination really. Some are up for redevelopment or repurposing or are currently vacant. Others have been, discussed in the past as really key sites due to their visibility or, their prominence. So I think for all those reasons, these really stood out to us. And then, just kind of, again, getting the feedback from the community. I'll go through these really quickly, one by one, just to highlight them. The first one is what we call the Summit Avenue Row. We think this is a really key corridor anchored by the Herald Mail building, which is a huge opportunity, as you know, and then the intersection of Washington with the courthouse building. That future is up in the air potentially, and then the Discovery Station building is vacant. So all those lining Summit, we think, collectively really create an interesting opportunity. We focused on a few of these buildings, including the Dagmar Hotel and the Shockey building there at 26 to 30 Summit Avenue. We ran some economic feasibility for the Shockey building and the Dagmar, and we do think reusing them as apartments with ground floor retail or dining really could work financially, and those could be really great opportunities for that row. MKSK did a really wonderful rendering of the Shockey building, kind of demonstrating what that might look like. Luis will get more into the public realm, but I just wanted to focus on the building a little bit with the idea of demolishing that low slum building right next door and perhaps creating a new pocket park, an area that could be used by residents, that could be used by diners in the ground floor, assuming that's a restaurant, for example. And then that opens up the opportunity for windows along the side, and that really makes for a more feasible environment for housing. You've got all those windows now that used to be, a blank wall. So we think that could really be a great mid-block anchor to that strip there, and possibly even some sort of collaboration with USMH, for a combination of student housing, maybe with some market rate housing. Another site is North Potomac. It's kind of generic because it covers several addresses, but it's the vacant parking lot, and it's basically 14 North Potomac, where the city planning and economic development used to be. And the building next door, and that is really an opportunity, we think, because it's owned by the city. There's a lot of different things that could be between new construction and rehabbing of the existing buildings. We think the uses for that could be a hotel possibly, or office, maybe even residential. But collectively, those really create a central opportunity, we think, and we wanted to just make sure that remained an important site to consider. Similarly, 50 East Washington Street, that is also a vacant site, a parking lot currently owned by the city. So again, that creates a great opportunity. The city's in control really of the destiny for that and how things move forward. So that's really an advantage from that standpoint of ownership. So that just really stands out again as a key opportunity. With those sites in mind, we wanted to just throw around some renderings, some images of what what a downtown office building could potentially look like. These are examples from other cities. You know, they're the 3 to 4, maybe even 5-story, mid-rise, nothing too crazy, but again, fitting well with an urban environment such as Hagerstown, walkable. The image on the left was a proposal from the last time I did the plan, and I thought it still really kind of remains an attractive, you know, I think a good scale of what potentially could be realized downtown in terms of office. Similarly, you know, a future hotel, we mentioned that the market demand we think is there soon for a new hotel, and these are just some examples in other cities of a downtown hotel, again, urban scale, ground floor restaurant. I think these are kind of 7 to 8 stories tall, but again, it just shows you an idea of what the future could hold for a similar type of thing in downtown Hagerstown. Moving on to the corner of Antietam, West Antietam and South Potomac. You know, this property has been discussed in the past for new housing, and we think that's a great use for that. So we fully endorse the plans to continue with that. We ran some numbers for that as well. It is a challenge to pencil things out, but we do think with a combination of you know, financing, equity, that in the right timing, that in the right footprint and unit count, that could be a viable use for that location. And of course, it's proximity to Meredith Park and really the cultural attractions of downtown Hagerstown couldn't be beat. So it's really an ideal location. The Holly Building, that's been discussed before for housing, and we think it's a great building. It just lends itself naturally by appearance for you know, loft-style apartments with the huge windows and you know, just the multi-stories. And so again, we wanted to keep that on the list of priorities for continuing to pursue for downtown housing. The location's great, and you know, I think it's just a matter of getting the right financing and the right unit count, but we do think that that's something that could really make a difference, catalytic project for downtown. Similarly, the YMCA building, it's a little on the edge of, you know, the core, as you know, but that just, again, looking at it, lends itself well to apartments with maybe some sort of ground floor commercial use, depending, or just simply residential. But, you know, we've thought about a couple of different options for that, whether it's all new construction or somehow retaining, you know, the facade and building, you know, keeping a part of the building and building a combination of new construction and historic restoration. So, you know, there's several opportunities for that building, and again, I think it really lends itself well to multifamily market rate housing. We also looked at the hospital. We call it Hospital Hill site. You know, the former Meredith Hospital. This is, you know, this has been in the plans for a long time. This was in the last plan 10 years ago. It's such a, you know, the site could really make such a difference to downtown that we want to keep it on the front burner, if you will, and make sure that it's considered in the next 10-year plan. So we highlighted this. MKSK did a really wonderful rendering of, you know, what some of the ideas that could be at the site here. And this was in collaboration with the city and some of their thoughts. So, you know, combination of, you know, a central park with, you know, cultural interpretation of Hagerstown's history, hopefully a regional draw that would really bring people from all over the place as part of their visitation to the Hagerstown area. And then surrounding it with housing, you know, on some of the other smaller lots, taking advantage of the existing parking structure. We're proposing very conceptually some multi-story, multifamily apartments, perhaps some townhomes there along the bottom in this area, you know, on-site parking. So again, this would be a multi-lot redevelopment process over probably a few different phases. Oh, we also included some small retailer that could serve the immediate population that lives right there. So, yeah, just wanted to throw out an idea of what this could possibly look like, just to keep the excitement going for this site. Okay, I'm going to then hand it back to Luis to talk about some of the recommendations for the streets and open space.
Thanks, Chris. I'm going to spend a few minutes talking about really the quality of the public realm, because it's one of the clearest and strongest themes we've heard from the community. You know, the hundreds of comments and conversations, people consistently told us that, you know, downtown has great bones, but the public realm really needs to feel safer, greener, and a little bit more welcoming, especially for those who are on foot and walking. So there's a real desire to reimagine underused or underutilized streets, alleys, and connections that's really building on what's already working. So to respond to that, this section is organized into these 4 big ideas, which I'll walk through. The first one is humanizing downtown streets, then creating a cultural loop, investing in alleyways, and then be uniquely Hagerstown. So the first one focuses on humanizing downtown street. So the good news is that parts of downtown already get this right. So we've got Washington, Potomac, Franklin streets. These are really showing what's possible. You have walkable block sizes, good materials and sidewalks, strong street trees, an environment where people want to walk and stroll. But 1 or 2 blocks away from the streets, the quality drops off quickly. So the goal here is to extend that pedestrian-friendly experience across more of downtown, not just a few of your signature blocks. When people talk about what they wanted, they focused on very practical things. So like wider sidewalks, more trees, better landscaping, better lighting, safer crossing, intersections that are comfortable. It's about designing streets that continue to function for vehicles, but are prioritizing pedestrians because this is a downtown environment. There's also a business case for it. You know, streets that feel good to walk on have more foot traffic, more lingering, they have better visibility for shops, restaurants, and destinations like Meredith Park or the Maryland Theater. So what we do in the plan is that we present a toolkit of improvements like that improve pedestrian comfort. So things like safer intersections, curb extensions, raised crossings, traffic calming strategies, and in a few instances, signature curbless or signature street treatment that supports event, outdoor dining, and placemaking. And you notice in the map below, we have before we list, we have 2 types of corridor for improvements. The first of which is priority corridors, so it's streets that connect key destinations that already have some activity. These are where you'll probably see the most impact from improvements outside of the core. And like Chris mentioned, we have things like Summit Avenue and Jonathan Street where you have a lot of opportunity for catalyst sites. And the secondary corridors extend that walkability outside into more parts of downtown and help stitch that whole network together over time. The next big idea is to create a cultural loop. So the cultural trail is already one of downtown's most beloved features. You know, people told us that this is one of the key things that they like to visit downtown and they wanted more of it. So our idea in this plan is to extend that into a loop that builds on that success of the cultural trail and makes it into a recognizable, connected experience that's tying more of downtown together and helping connect to its public spaces and the cultural attractions. What important here is flexibility in the design. We're showing here a couple of 2 phases of cultural loop. The first phase, which is what we think is a very feasible, implementable phase along Summit and Jonathan. And then a second phase, which is a little bit longer term, that stitches a greater part of downtown as things redevelop, maybe even closer to the Hospital Hill site. But this is really a phased approach. Longer term, the second phase is something that is more expansive of the loop. On the next slide, you see some alternatives for how a cultural loop along Jonathan Street or Summit Avenue can look. And again, I emphasize flexibility in thinking through this. You could create a multi-use trail on the west side of the street that uses the existing bike lane and reduce the street to one way. You could do that on the east side of the street and have it facing all of the catalyst sites on the Summit Row, developments that Chris mentioned. Or you could do a hybrid approach, which is what we're calling option 3, where you extend sidewalks on both sides and do things like curb cuts and bump outs to help create a more attractive public realm. On the next slide, you get an idea of what the impact that type of investment does in the streets. On the left, you see the existing Summit Avenue corridor with the Shockey building on the right. And on the right, you see the option 3, essentially, where you extend sidewalks, improve sidewalks, add things like bump outs with trees, and bring some of the elements of the cultural trail onto the streetscape itself. Some of the signage, the materials, the investments in placemaking, great intersections with public art, things that make the street feel special and bring a little bit of that cultural trail character out into more of downtown. The next big idea is investing in your alley network. So you already have a really cool network of historic alleys, and a lot of them are not quite living up to their potential. So these were described to us as hidden opportunities or hidden gems by folks that we chatted with. We're very clear in the plan that these are service corridors, and businesses depend on them for key things that are very practical. So we want to continue to have them function as service corridor, but with thoughtful design, they can become more inviting, low-stress connections for walking and biking, and create an alternative kind of secondary system for folks to move through downtown. You notice on the map we have 2 different kind of ranges of alleys, high priority and secondary alleys. And the thought here is that the high priority alleys connect directly to the cultural trail and your cultural loop. So these are alleys that we feel are a really great opportunity to enliven now. Beyond that, the network of alley improvements can be more incremental. You can think through how other alleys continue to be improved. To support this, we included an alley design toolkit as part of the plan, rather than one theme. There's a menu of options, and if you go to the next slide, you can kind of see how that menu works together, right? You've got things like lighting, canopy, murals, pavement treatment, sculpture, signage. This design toolkit really lets you think through each alley and kind of apply some life and some excitement to it. So, you see here a conceptual rendering for Wareham Alley. On the top right, you see the existing conditions. Continuing to, allow for cars to move through it, but maybe some vegetative planters on the left, some murals, some sculptures, some string lighting to liven things up. It suddenly, during events, can become a really walkable corridor. The same is for the next slide, which shows Hayes Alley, which some placemaking improvements by things that are discussed in the toolkit. These places can become to life, and they can be really special and places that people will want to linger and help fill some of your connectivity gaps along the cultural trail. The last big idea in the next slide is to be uniquely Hagerstown. So, across all of these recommendations, there's an emphasis on placemaking to reflect local history, creativity, and identity. So, our thought here is to not just to make downtown nicer, which we do want to be, and you all want it to be, but it's to make it recognizable and more legible and really rooted in its own character. And these are some things that we feel are very implementable and feasible for you all to do. On the next slide, you see a little bit of example of what this means. So, making downtown more welcoming, we're talking better thresholds into downtown with monument signs or public art that announces that you're somewhere special. Once you're in downtown, we want to make it more easy to get around. So better wayfinding, especially when you connect to the cultural trail, to places where we want folks to go. And letting them know that if you're attending a game at Meredith Park, going to University Plaza, that's a 5-minute walk away. There are restaurants by Public Square, that's a 7-minute walk away. You want to make sure that people understand the walkability of downtown. Third, we call it Make Downtown Famous, but there's a lot of great things on the arts and culture side, especially with the Maryland Theater, that you all could showcase more, like a Walk of Fame. And lastly, make downtown contextual. There's a lot of great history that goes unnoticed and untold. One of the ways that, you can reflect what is more uniquely Hagerstown is by showcasing that as part of your public art, whether it's an alley, a mural, or a sign. You really want to showcase the history and the people that made Hagerstown a somewhere special. So, together, the point here about these 4 ideas is making downtown easier and more enjoyable, more legible, And if you all, as you all read through the plan, I hope you see how practical and phased our implementation can be. There's some quick build pilots in there, some feasibility studies that might help align in our investments. So these ideas and these visions can move from an idea into an action. So for next, I'll pass it back to Chris so he can talk a little bit about the programming of downtown.
All right, thanks, Luis. Yeah, so we'll round out the presentation here with the programmatic recommendations. There are 3 of them, as you may recall from last month. The first one is the idea of, I mentioned earlier, of the housing improvement, and that's really reinforcing the existing housing stock, both in downtown and in the neighborhoods adjacent, to help bring up the market of downtown itself to eventually get to a point where maybe some additional new construction may be a feasible type of thing. So overall, we suggest to do that, basically improving the blighted conditions and increasing the market rate owner occupied housing, basically to strengthen the downtown market. So that's it in a nutshell. And to accomplish that, we suggest a few different strategies. The city's got some very strong programs right now, and some of them are state funding as well, but they're subsidies to help existing homeowners encourage repair of their homes if they can't really afford a new roof or facade improvements, that kind of thing. Some of them are for purchasing, for first-time home buyers who would love to buy a home but just can't quite get there in terms of down payment, for example. So we would suggest, keep those programs going, but that keeps the maintenance alive, which we think is really important. Combined with that, we would suggest continuing code enforcement, to address any properties that are particularly problematic in terms of maintenance or landlord issues, that kind of thing. We think the city's CDBG homeownership program is excellent, and the idea is to continue doing it, maybe even beef it up, and possibly using some of the leveraging opportunities with the Choice Neighborhood Plan, based on, it sounds like some of the implementation funding that is forthcoming to be very exciting opportunity for that, as well as the Enough grant going on the south end. So, both those programs are really bookending downtown. So I think there's a lot of opportunity to team with the city to continue the CDBG home ownership program, leverage some of the implementation funding from some of these other activities, and really create a great package to strengthen, the row homes and the neighborhoods right there and then around downtown to strengthen the ownership market. The second is the public safety perception. That's an ongoing issue. That was something brought up in our feedback. That was something brought up 10 years ago, the prior plan. It's not an easy task, so we suggest, continuing that as a strategy. And the idea is to really make people who know downtown love it and want to come back. It's the people that don't know enough about it that need to have a great experience, and we need to make them want to come back more and more based on that great experience. So we're suggesting a few things for that. The downtown events that the city hosts are amazing. There's a whole calendar, as you know, year-round. Both large events that attract people from out of the town, out of state, and then the smaller ones, the weekly ones that occur in the summer. So combined, those are really fantastic, and I know the city's working really hard to keep those going and doing a fantastic job. One thing that came up that was possibly just promoting the successes of those more, whether it's on social media or however that's done, but just getting the word out to people that these events are great, they're successful, they attract people from everywhere, they're safe. The experience is really well loved by a lot of people. You can see their comments on social media. So I think it would be really helpful to basically in statistics and attendance numbers and measurable impacts really demonstrating to the community at large that downtown pulls off some really great things very successfully. You should join and you should enjoy it for yourself. So I think that's the idea there. Another idea is a business improvement district. That is something that's very successful in other cities. It's basically creating an area of downtown where an additional assessment is leveraged on the business owners that basically contributes to the city coffers that are available to help cleaning and greening and safety, and that might be a way of adding more, boots on the ground, city ambassadors, if you will, that are just present. So people see people they've got their eyes and ears open, and people are there for helping visitors find directions, that kind of thing. So that's a very successful way of improving public public perception of safety in downtown areas. And then finally, coordinating with the HPD. They've got a lot of great success stories of their own. They're doing important work with their foot patrol, and they've got a lot of safety measures. And they even suggested that they could promote that as well. Like, hey, we should let people know how safe it really is, and demonstrate that you should really come to Hagerstown. It's a great place to be, and it's very safe. It would be ideal, however, to increase the number of officers, if you will, particularly on weekends and at nights, and they admitted it that staffing is a challenge. So to the degree that that's possible, that would be a recommendation. And then finally, USMH is a really important anchor downtown. It's an important draw with its students and its programs. So to the degree that we can really reinforce their presence and collaborate with them, I think is important from the city's standpoint. They've got their own 10-year plan and their own ideas of changing their footprint and acquiring a building if possible. So I think, to the degree that the city can be a partner, and they already are a great partner with USMH, continuing that partnership, I think, is really important. In that vein, maybe identifying specific properties that would bode well for the university if they are considering an expansion, and keep those in mind for future moves on the university's part. The parking situation downtown is great with your several parking structures, and maybe there's a way that the university can support the students so they can use some of the parking garages and park less on the street, more in the garages, which would open up spaces for the businesses. And then finally, this came up with discussions with the university, which I think is a good idea. Understanding kind of the synchronization of the demand of businesses and the demand of the university. So on evenings when, the university has events or late classes, having the downtown businesses aware that those would be good nights to stay open, and there'd be, more of a kind of a synchronization, if you will, with the restaurants and the retail. So the nights that there's activity, the businesses are there to provide, and then the nights where there's not, then they would not have to be waiting for customers, because they would know, what the schedules are for the university. So that's the kind of the idea there with the collaboration. So that is the last programmatic recommendation, and that really covers all of our plan. There's a lot, so we'd love to open up the floor and answer any remaining questions you may have.
You good? Okay. I don't think we have any. I think we asked everything the last time.
Okay.
And what
Sounds
we'll do
good.
is, once this gets approved, we'll begin to start making plans on going through the recommendations and look at the budget, see how we can meld not only your strategic plan, but also this 10-year plan together and prioritize where budget dollars go for you all to discuss in the spring.
I wrote that down. to bring up in my comments, so never mind. To compare our goals.
Been on the council too long.
So we'll bring this back next week for adoption and move forward from there.
All right,
All right,
thanks,
thanks
Chris.
so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it.
All right, next up, we have the meter transceiver units trade-in program with LB Water. Nancy Hosrath. And Tyler Potter.
Hello. So what we're bringing to you today is a request for mayor and council to accept a 12% discount on the purchase of new radio transceiver units. These are used to how we read the water meters to generate bills. Currently, we have about 3,000 units, which will become obsolete in 2028. By accepting the discount, we will avoid the disposal cost of that obsolete units. Many of the current units in stock were received as part of a warranty program, and they weren't actually purchased. If mayor and council approve, we'll bring it back in February as a consent item to move forward. I'll open it to any questions of what this is, or if anybody needs further detail.
You're asking for a discount? Like, are we okay with this? Absolutely, we're okay with discount.
Yeah, it's a discount. It's a trade-in program that our supplier is offering to get rid of old units and bring in the new units. The old units will be obsolete very soon in 2028. So it's to move forward with putting them in the ground, because usually they're put in the ground, you know, we wait until we have an issue and we take them back out, which 20-year battery life, we hope to get that out of those.
You will see, you'll see a motion later this month to accept, or at the next meeting to accept that discount. And then next month, on the consent, there's a quote there for over 500,000. So it is a big purchase. We purchased many of the meters, so that program is ready to move forward as soon as the weather breaks and we can start doing what we call mass meter exchanges to get them in the ground.
Everybody good?
Yes.
Yeah,
All right. Thanks, Ed.
Thank you.
thank you.
Next, review lease holdover extension, Maryland Department of Labor, Doug Reeser.
So before you is a letter with the state of Maryland. They're requesting a lease holdover extension for 6 months for 11,140 square feet located at 2 to 6 North Potomac, which is the Elizabeth Hager Center, the first floor. Department of General Services has requested this additional lease extension from the original lease began in January 29th of 2007. This is the seventh holdover request, so the term would be beginning February 1st, 2026 and run through July 31st, 2026 at the current rate of $15 a foot or $167,100 annually. The state and city have been acting in good faith for all the rental payments. So looking for action on moving forward with a lease holdover extension. Included in the packet is a letter from the state as well as a draft motion.
Good? I'm good. Got it.
Thanks.
Sir. Next up, Hamilton Run Stream Restoration, Jim Bender.
Good afternoon. So for at least the last 10 years, there has been a project in the works to do a stream restoration project on Hamilton Run. It's the portion of the run that's up along Northern Avenue that flows through Mills Park and the American Legion property, flows under the terrace, and then it ends up going under the Long Meadow Shopping Center. We were approached back in 2016 or 2017 by the Washington County Conservation District. They had been doing stream restoration projects out in more rural parts of Washington County, but they were very interested in partnering with the city on a more urban stream restoration project. So we spent a couple of years actually talking about the idea and coming up with some conceptual plans. And in 2021, there was actually an MOU executed between the city and the Conservation District to allow the Conservation District to apply for grant funding and to move forward with this project. And so since 2021, they were able to receive that grant. They have their own consultant that's been working on the design for this stream restoration. And we were actually getting close to the point where they were going to apply for permits to do the projects, and we could sort of see that we were heading for construction. And over the past, I'd say 5 years in the city CIP budgets, we have set aside money out of the stormwater program to do stream restoration projects. So this is something that we've had on our radar screen for a while. What happened in 2025 is that the Department of Natural Resources came out with a new program statewide. It's called the Whole Watershed Program. And they had a very large pot of money that they were going to make available to applicants to work on restoration projects on a watershed level. And one of the groups that applied was the Catoctin Land Institute. And they applied saying that they want to do a project in the Antietam Creek watershed, which most of Hagerstown is in the Antietam Creek watershed. They were successful in their application. I believe in this round, they got $2 million of funding. And so they knew that this project was kind of kicking around between the city and the Conservation District. It's in the Antietam Creek watershed. They thought it would be a great way for them to partner on this project. And so they are willing to contribute up to $1 million out of the funding that they've received to add to this project. The city has money set aside in our CIP for this project. Conservation District still has grant funding that can be applied to this. So really, this is just an update to let you know that it looks like this project is going to move forward. Basically, what it's going to do is restore the section of Hamilton Run from the railroad tracks that cross Northern Avenue down to the terrace. And it includes improvements in Mills Park. It includes improvements at the American Legion. There's a photo in the memo showing one of the issues that we're trying to address up there is that Northern Avenue occasionally floods because of some inadequate channels and culverts. So we want to try to address that and really want to try to make the stream corridor more of a natural stream. It's really kind of confined right now. It doesn't have a lot of environmental attributes to it. So we're looking to enhance all of that. And this project has also been very enthusiastically endorsed by the Department of Natural Resources. They're excited about this project happening as well. They've sent delegations out here a couple times to talk about this specific project. So really, at this point, there's no action required. Just wanted to, bring the council up to speed, let you know that this project is moving forward. Probably because of the restrictions on when you can work in the stream, the earliest we could do any work up there would be sometime this summer after June 1st. I'm not sure if we'll have the permits all in place at that point, but it's coming, and I think it's going to be a good enhancement to the northern end of Hagerstown.
I'm glad it's moving forward,
Yeah.
finally.
Anything else from Jim on that subject?
This is also, because I'm looking at the maps, I just want to make sure. It's also the stream that runs kind of like behind Northern Middle too? Is that all?
It's all, that's all Hamilton Run. Hamilton
Oh,
Run
okay,
actually
gotcha.
starts up at Rust Haven Cemetery.
Okay.
And it flows pretty much parallel with Northern Avenue the whole way down to the
Oh, okay.
terrace.
Okay. Anything else? All right, might as well stay with us, Jim. Easement for speed camera on Marshall Street School in North High.
So HPD years ago installed speed cameras near the various schools in the city, and you've probably seen them. They were basically boxes or cubes on the sidewalk or on the ground mounted, that had cameras that would be able to track and record if somebody was speeding in those zones. HPD has a new contract with a new vendor for speed cameras, and the technology has changed over the past 10 to 15 years. So what they're going to now, instead of having ground-mounted cameras, they're actually putting them up on poles so that they're elevated. And in most cases, they're able to put these new cameras on the poles pretty much at the same location where the old ground-mounted cameras were. But there are a couple locations because of trees and other obstacles that they can't really fit these new cameras in and stay within the public street right of way. In the two locations that where we had the most issue were out near the Marshall Street School on Marshall Street and at North High. And at both of those locations, HPD approached the Washington County Board of Education and asked if they would consider granting an easement to us at both of those locations so that we can put the cameras in. They would actually be on property owned by the Board of Education, but we would maintain an easement there so that we could access the cameras and do whatever maintenance is needed on them. Washington County Board has not formally approved this. They will at their business meeting next Tuesday. But I will be bringing back a motion to the council at the regular session recommending that we accept these easements contingent upon the board formally approving on their end. That's basically the gist of this. We just need some extra space outside the street right away to install these cameras.
Everybody good with that?
I have a question about,
Go ahead.
so in the memo, there's a picture of the old camera, the box, and the new one will be behind it in this pole structure. So I think it looks a lot.
Yes, I'm not sure. I haven't talked to HPD. My assumption is that going to this new system, they're going to go back and remove all those boxes.
Okay.
There's no reason for them to be there. There are some locations, like up at the former Winter Street School, where it's actually kind of an obstacle on the sidewalk, and we'd like to remove it so it's, get it out of the way.
Because the old box, the camera wouldn't be of use, right? Just the newer one.
That's right.
Any other questions?
Eventually, will they all get kind of switched out?
I think-
Like anywhere there's a box, eventually will they all get switched out?
I believe so. I think that's the intention. I can't really think of a reason why they would keep any of the ground-mounted ones.
Okay. Everybody good?
Yeah, on stage, yeah.
Next one, amendment to MOU with State Highway Administration.
Right. Probably 4 or 5 years ago, the city applied for funding from the state through the Safe Routes to School program. A project had been identified to improve the intersection of Baltimore Street and South Potomac Street. So we were awarded funding for that, $550,000 with about $150,000 local match. And the project has been designed and we put it out to bid in November. And the low bid came in higher than the funding level that we had. The low bid was about roughly $750,000. So we were short on funding. The state said you can request additional funds from us so that you can move ahead with this project. But what that requires is we need to amend the MOU that we have with the state now to account for that additional funding. So the state is willing to increase their share from $550,000 to $622,000. The city's match will go up as well, and we've identified money in one of our other CIPs that has to do with traffic signalization that we can transfer some funds out of there to make up the difference for our match. We would like to proceed with this project because it's probably been in the works since 2021 or 2022, and we'd actually like to see it happen, get it in the ground.
Everybody okay with that?
Right.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, anti-camping sunset provision renewal discussion and 2025 crime recap. Good evening, everybody. That's, handoff here for you guys, so. There you go. If you need one.
I'll wait till you guys get copies of that. So one's the stats for the camping ordinance that we've been working on, and the other one are just our end of year crime stats that we're going to go over second. So we'll go over the camping ordinance section first. I want to introduce Sergeant Plummer again. He was the architect of this ordinance several years ago, and we finally got it here. So I wanted to bring him down to go over, and he was the one capturing the stats for you here and providing for me to give to you every month. So I'm going to turn it over to Sergeant Plummer.
First, I just want to say thank you guys for hearing us. I know when we first presented it, the perception of it wasn't the best, and you guys kept an open mind and let us present and use our expertise to tell you guys what we needed. And with that open mind, we were able to come across and meet at a place after several attempts to even get this on a trial period. And so when we did that trial period, I wanted to do the most for you guys for your requests when it came to the information. So what I did was I created a form. It was a live form that fed into a document, one of the Google documents. It fed right into that, so I could track what was happening throughout the day. And we pushed it out to the officers and just said, hey, when you come across individuals in certain situations, can you please fill out this form so that I can capture this data so we can bring it back? And so that's what we did. And so for the first page just has the breakdown of, it's a pie chart and just has the breakdown of the information visually for you guys. It has the legend, and the legend has the complete title. Going past that page, everything is broken down with percentages, so you guys can get a little bit better understanding. The legends aren't complete, but the legends give you an idea of what they are, and they reference back to the first page. So if you have trouble reading what a legend is, what the actual title is, refer back to the first page, you can see what it is. So I can break this down month by month for you. I believe that was one of the requests, and it's broken down into a sheet for you. But in the month of August, officers reported 15 contacts. During those 15 contacts, 8 were proactive and 7 reactive. 8 being proactive, meaning that officers were out and initiated the contact. 7 means that the 7 reactive means that they were sent there at a citizen complaint. So they went there. Of those contacts, 8 were on public property, 7 were on private property. I felt that it was fair to show that stat to you guys so that you guys could see that, you know, we're dealing with this problem on private property and public property. It's not just, you know, it's not just one area of what's earmarked. So we're going out, we're dealing with different situations on different areas of property. When we went through, we also wanted to show that, you know, we're trying to also be a solution to these individuals. So of these individuals, 3 of them were in August, 3 of them were engaged in public services, 12 were not. And of those people, we offered them services. We tried to help provide them services. Only one of those individuals was employed. 14 of them were not employed. And going down through, 7 individuals were homeless, stated they were homeless with no place to go. 3 individuals were homeless but reported having some sort of barrier as why they couldn't be at the address that they identified they could be at. There was a conflict. They couldn't go there. Moving through that, 5 individuals reported that they just chose to be outside. They just wanted to be outside. They didn't want to be anywhere else. Of those individuals, we had a person from Tennessee. We had a person from Philadelphia. We had people from Frederick County and Prince George's County. So that shows that we're getting different people coming into different areas. Based off officer observations, there were CDS, controlled dangerous substances, usually narcotics, drugs, involved in the calls. Either self-admittedly, there was evidence of it there on the scene, or they were exhibiting signs of influence from those. Moving through, as we dealt with the individuals, 7 of the individuals were moved along and were already aware of the ordinance. 6 of the individuals were moved along and informed of the ordinance, and 1 individual was arrested on an outstanding warrant, and 1 individual was arrested on separate criminal charges. So that shows that officers are going out and they're using this as a tool like we initially wanted this to be. We wanted this to have, when we go out and we tell somebody they need to move along for the good of the public, we didn't want them to just not have any backing to that. So we gave the officers that one tool. It filled the gap of trespassing laws that are already in place. As Councilman Alshire pointed out, that there's a lot of laws already in place that gave us the authority to do what we need to do to alleviate these situations, but there was a gap. This law and these stats help show that that gap was filled with this ordinance. I can continue to go through the separate months. Everything else has the statistics broken down with it, the percentages for you. I went through August just because those percentages weren't exactly broken down for you, but I can answer any other questions, any information of data that I gathered. We have up here on the screen is, again, just the August charts, just sort of broken down the same way you guys have them there.
I see as each month went by, initially started out with individuals not aware of the ordinance. And then by December, everyone's aware, so
We wanted to make sure that people were very aware of it first. Yes, absolutely. And we pushed out a campaign at first to let people know, hey, the city council has approved this ordinance. We pushed that out, that, as an informative thing before it was enacted, and then we enacted it, I believe the date was August 8th.
And two more things.
Yes, ma'am.
The engagement in public services by December was 100%. Is that due to this ordinance being in place and having the contact with those individuals to tell them, these resources are available, giving them the guide of all the resources around? Is that contributing to this 100%?
We believe so. We don't have any empirical data to say that, but we also have all the partners that are engaged with this population of people that are relaying this ordinance out there as well. So it's not just gotten out through our contacts, but through all the service providers that are dealing with the population as well. So I believe, yes, I can say that, there's, at least it appears that's the case here. The increases that we wanted to see in the data we see, and there are no significant increases here. I mean, we're still talking about a small number, but those increases do occur where we want them to, and they decrease in the other areas where we're thinking about. So it kind of worked out exactly the way we had envisioned it to work out when we proposed this to you way back 9 months ago.
And having the partners is definitely key with this. And one more, were there any arrests in, I guess, violation of this ordinance?
So there were 2 arrests, but they were found to be erroneously done by an officer that was new, and those got dropped because they were on private property, not on public property. So it was it was misused, and it was not egregious. They were on a shopping center property that's used by the public in general, and the officer was just confused about it being private property than public property. But those charges were dropped.
So no arrests at all.
No arrest for the ordinance itself, yes.
Thank you.
As you move through and look at the different categories and things, I did want to say that any discrepancies in the categories are attributed to specific circumstances in which we encounter those individuals. Varying levels of cooperation from the persons contacted. I mean, this was a voluntary Q&A when officers were out with them. So they may not have answered some of the questions. They may not have answered with the most honesty. We're presenting to you what we generally obtained from people talking to them, but there may be discrepancies. And also, it was a living document. At one point, one of the officers downtown on bike said, "That question doesn't exactly make sense to me. Can you add a question?" So I added a question for them that was added shortly after. So it throws the numbers off just a little bit, but that's because we were trying to be as open and transparent with the document and the information we were obtaining as possible. So that shows me that officers genuinely cared about the data they were grabbing, saying, hey, this question's not clear 100% when I'm asking it. Can we add this for clarification? I said, yeah, sure. So I added it in. It didn't obviously capture the 47 contacts that were reported because it came later on.
What was the question that he wanted?
Oh, man. If you give me 1 second, I can.
It's okay. I just didn't
think it
know
had
if
to do
it
with
was like
services.
dramatic.
It had to do with
Had to do
with
with,
the services that were being provided. And the way I had the question made sense to me, but when he read it and interpreted it differently. So he said, can you clarify this and add a question? And that's when we added on the question, one of the questions. But yeah, it was about services, man.
Did you see that the questions that you ask kind of either made sense or didn't make sense depending on the area? Like whether if it's downtown or somewhere else, you know what I mean? Like,
They were
did you
generally
kind of adjust
vague.
them, considering where they,
No,
what was
ma'am.
going
So
on?
I think I understand where you're going with that. No, ma'am. I tried to make them as generic and
Okay.
vague as possible because I don't know where the officers are going to encounter these people. And, you know, an officer may encounter them at 8 o'clock at night when I'm not at the office to help clarify. So I tried to make them as vague and universal as I could. And again, that goes back to the varying circumstances in which officers encounter these individuals and where we may not have gotten an answer in that situation. So they weren't required to answer every single question because it may not have been applicable at that time.
That's what I was.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
The applicable
So
question.
what we found is most of the people that we engaged with did answer the questions. They had a few questions they just didn't answer, or just didn't want to, but most of them did answer our questions. And again, we have to take at face value whether those answers were valid answers from them. And then some are observational for us. So if someone appears to be intoxicated, and didn't answer that, we were able to at least extrapolate that based on our knowledge, training, experience, that person was under the influence of something, whether it was drugs or alcohol. We could take that and put it in this data here. And because we didn't associate it with an actual name, it wasn't anything we were violating anybody's privacies or rights there. We were just trying to collect some data. We hope we met your needs. I know a few times you asked for some additional data, and we came back and put that out. You know, we promised that we'd give you month-to-month data and, you know, keep you up to date on it, you know, so we could be as transparent as we could be and to the public. And, you know, and the fear that was happening in the very beginning has dramatically subsided. We're not getting the pushback from everybody that we were hearing before, because I think we've proven that we're honest in what we've approached this as and how we wanted to deal with this.
This definitely exceeded my needs. So thank you. And I really appreciate the color
He gets
coding.
credit for that.
I'm looking at you like, this is really great. And I appreciate you, Chief, for coming each month to give us an update.
Yeah, I agree with Councilwoman. I mean, when you see the numbers and see exactly what's going on, it helps us make a better informed decision. So I appreciate it too. It's very thorough.
Well, and I like providing percentages and real numbers, because percentages can give you an appearance of something that's bigger than it is or smaller than it is. So you associate that with real numbers, and it gives you that true picture. So percentages look great, and gives you at least a snapshot. But when you look at the numbers, you can say, okay, I see what that is. You know, so again, we're not talking about a large number. We didn't have any repeats.
We did have.
We had one.
Yeah, there was, so initially, no, as Chief was reporting month by month, we didn't have, in the same month, we didn't have repeats. Ultimately, at the end, we did have 5 individuals that repeated throughout the whole 6-month period. And of those 5 individuals, they only repeated twice. So like maybe once in August and once in October. And originally, when we were capturing that data and reporting back to you guys, we were reporting month by month, and they weren't in the same month, so they wouldn't have been repeats then. But over a 6-month period, yes, we encountered the same person twice on 5 different occasions.
Sergeants, because you did such a great job, you know, this is going to be your thing, right? So next time we want some data.
Yes, ma'am.
Kind of like volunteered to do this now.
I'm here to help and make anything I can do go along, man.
Honorary data person.
Right?
And I would just like to ask, in y'all's opinion, from y'all's viewpoint, do you think this was helpful and needed?
Yes. Not that it had an impact in terms of, you know, directly from us, but we saw, and the mayor can attest to this, at being some of the meetings we were at, the service providers had gotten an influx of people that could be affected by this, that were seeking assistance and help. that they saw an increase in that. So it had a really positive effect on the people that need to have that help. In some of those cases, I think it was just the fear of maybe getting in trouble, drove them to go ahead and pursue the assistance that they were going to be needing anyway.
I do think it kind of helped, or made a lot of our community partners kind of stand in that gap when needed, so.
And then one last thing for me, this is also a preventative measure. As I said, we spoke about this and we presented this. This was about us avoiding having tent cities and that kind of activity that we've seen across the country where when the law changed, those tents in those cities, those little mini cities within those cities had to be dismantled. And that imagery and the impact on the people that were involved, far more dangerous and hurtful than trying to prevent it from happening in the beginning. So I think having this preventive matter is far more humane and a better way to approach this than having to do it at the end when you go, okay, we can't do this anymore. Take all those 10 cities down and displace those people. And that just would be a bad image for us.
Yeah, I agree.
But judging by the numbers as it's went down each month, it seems like it's effective, and it seems like it's doing exactly what you guys wanted it to do. So, yeah,
And it's a tool. It gives the guys, at least there's an option on those rare occasions. As I said in the very beginning, I think when you were here, we thought we might use this, 2 times a year maybe at most, we'd have somebody get arrested. We're 6 months into it. We haven't used it at all yet. So, there's probably gonna be someone that'll eventually get arrested for this because, on the 2 occasions where the officer did make the arrest and he was on private property, those charges were valid for a trespassing charge on private property. It just didn't fall into this category. Those 2 individuals were acting in the exact same manner that we were trying to explain to you guys that would happen, that would have us have no recourse if they were on public property. And so in that situation, without having the ordinance, that person, if they were on public property, would have been allowed to stay there.
Right.
So it would have impacted if there would have been a slight change in the location.
Anybody else? Any questions on that?
Okay.
No?
I got Lieutenant Lewis with me here, and we're gonna go over some year-end stats. Scott asked us to come down and discuss. And Lieutenant Lewis is in charge of operations, and so I get to come down and speak to you guys all the time. So I'm gonna let Lieutenant Lewis go over stats because he's directly impactful with the guys he manages to go out here and work on these things.
All right. So, good evening, everybody. Thanks for taking the time to listen to us here for a few minutes. I'll try to be brief. So the first thing is, we'll go over is incidents involving firearms. And as everybody can see from your graph, we started in 2020 with 155, go to 142, 139, 126, 109, and then in 2025, 77. Which is a very drastic jump for us. And something I haven't seen in my career where it was that low. So big drop off for us for incidents involving firearms.
So real quick before we move on, can you explain what you mean by incidents with firearms? That just because firearms are present?
Yeah, so anything essentially with firearms, could be an aggravated assault, could be a shooting, could be a possession of a firearm, but it's essentially any type of incident where some type of weapon is involved, where we get involved and make an arrest, or we have a report that we have to investigate a shooting or so on and so forth. Okay? Yep. Sorry if I'm going too quick, just stop me. So shootings bounded, 56 in 2020, we dropped to 36 in 2021, back up to 50, 38, 33, and 25 is down to 27. So if you look back to 2020 to 25 to 2025 now, that is half, essentially half of what we're seeing. So that is a very drastic drop for us, and a good thing, obviously. Any questions on that one?
And when we say shootings founded, that means that we have proof that a shooting actually occurred, not just a call for shots fired where we couldn't prove anything was fired. So it was an actual proof that a shooting occurred.
With our technology now, I'll be honest, we're actually able to disprove and prove them a lot easier now. Get a lot of fireworks complaints, especially in the summer and that kind of stuff.
Backfires.
Yep, backfires. We get a lot of that. Used to get a lot from the dirt bikes. But these are things where we find shell casings, we have some type of evidence that says there was a shooting here.
Or our new shot detection system will
Yep.
will identify it, and we know that it's accurate based on that, but yes.
Okay, firearm seized. In 2024, the Narcotics Task Force seized 41, HPD seized 65. 2025, NTF seized 22, and HPD seized 51. So again, another significant drop in the amount of firearms that we're getting. And it's not for lack of trying, because I can tell you, our crime suppression guys, they are really good at what they do.
But it correlates with the previous data, the numbers going down with the firearms incidents, shooting incidents, less recoveries on firearms because we're seeing less and less firearms. So, good.
All right, so incidents total, this covers 2023, 24, and 25. As you can see, if you look over all the categories, homicide, rape, aggravated assault, burglary, theft, auto theft, assault, shootings, MDOP, which is malicious destruction of property, so like any type of damage to property, weapons, and CDS. Everything has went down, except for burglary, which just barely went up, theft, which has went up, and drug arrests, or CDS. I attribute that to the guys are making a lot more drug arrests on CDS, on drugs. And I mean, drugs are very prevalent, everybody knows, but we're making a lot of arrests. Now, I attribute a lot to the Narcotics Task Force, because those guys are doing a phenomenal job right now and have been for a while.
And one of the things we learned a long time ago when we do CompStat, computer statistics analysis to better place our staff every 2 weeks where we want them to be based on the data we have, is that the incidents that you see, burglary and thefts, are two kinds of crime incidents that really have no way to impact from a law enforcement perspective. There's not, because it's random. It's random issues that happen. Someone steals something off someone's porch, someone gets into someone's car that's got a purse in it, left it unlocked. Those are things we can't really control. So those numbers being that they're higher, statistically, they're not significantly higher from a statistical standpoint. And to be fair, the lower numbers aren't statistical definitions either. They're pretty flat when you look at all 3 years. But seeing the numbers actually go down is still a good thing for us. So, but I didn't want to present to people that really look at statistics and say this is significant, because it's really not. It's more of a flat numbering of where we're looking at and measuring these different crimes and incidents.
Any questions concerning any of that? So here is, I'm not going to go through all these because there's so many numbers here, but essentially we're looking at historical numbers for categories such as homicide, rape, robbery, aggravated assault, burglary, theft, auto theft, assault, which would be like a simple assault, shootings, destruction of property, weapons, and drugs, same categories as last time. So if we look at comparisons from 24 to 25, homicide, we were down 50%, rape, we're down 12%.
For a total number of how many homicides?
So, well, two.
So 4 to 2.
Two.
You're down 50%,
Right.
but.
We only had,
We're only
we had 4, went from 4 to 2. That's why that's why I like giving the numbers to.
Understood.
And that's also one of those numbers that ebbs and flows. And,
Sure.
you know, it's not something we're ever going to prevent. So robbery's down 36%, aggravated assault's down 8%. Burglary and theft, as we said, burglary's up 7%, theft is up 3%. Auto thefts are down 17%, assault's down 7%, shootings are down 18% from last year. Destruction of property down 15%, weapons are down 17%, and then drugs went up by 54%.
And you're attributing that to making more arrests?
I think so. I mean, the guys are just doing such a great job. You know, in our community meeting the other day, they were talking about how much they've been doing. So I attribute it to that, and the guys that we have on, I'm telling you, the street, like they're phenomenal now. They're doing such a great job.
Good.
they're also not responding to some of those other calls because those numbers are down. So not having to respond to those kind of calls frees them up to be proactive on the other side of things. So we can go after the drug trade, we can go after those issues that are going on. So, yeah. I wanted to point out one more thing on this sheet. If you look back historically at the other years, a lot of those categories are down in those years as well. So you could compound some of those from 2019 all the way to 2025, and the numbers are significantly down in some of those categories. Some ebb up and back down, but just from that one year that Lieutenant Lewis brought you up to, you could do a comparison and look across the board on some of those other ones, and those numbers would be dramatically down from 5-6 years ago.
Any questions on that slide? So if we move to the next slide, this kind of backs up what I was saying. So if we look at arrests for drugs, 229 in 2023, 179 in 2024, and then 2025, 316. So as I was saying, the guys are making a lot more arrests, doing such a great job. Firearms arrests are down, as are the stats for that. Aggravated assault arrests are actually up a little bit, even though it's the numbers have went down for the year. Auto theft arrest is 42, which is a significant drop compared to 2024, where we had 71. Burglary arrests, we've actually had more burglary arrests this year with 137 compared to 119 last year and 123 in 2023. And then theft, you'll see again, that was another number that had jumped up a decent amount this year. We actually made almost 100 more arrests in 2025 for theft than we did in 2024. So again, very, very significant with that. And that's probably some of the reasons we see the numbers get a little bit higher there, because of the arrests and the great job that the guys are doing.
Now, can you be a little more specific, like with the theft, with it being so high? Is it like mall theft or
So-
like what it, what?
Sure, it could be anything. It could be a package theft. It could be a theft of a candy bar from buyers. It could really be anything. We see a lot from the stores like Ulta or Dick's Sporting Goods. Somebody steals a sweatshirt or something like that. But it could also be, a theft like from somebody's house where they stole something out of the yard. So it could honestly be, it's a whole
So
variety
that's
of
pretty
things.
broad,
Yep.
like the theft
Yep.
section is pretty broad, okay.
The only thing that would not be included in that is like the theft of a motor vehicle. That's a totally separate
Right.
section.
And as you see these arrest numbers go up, we can strongly attribute that to our technology as well. So our citywide camera system, the Ring camera systems that everyone has and shares with us, all that kind of visual data allows us to identify people in these lesser cases than we could before. So the numbers, the arrests are going to go up because daily, guys are putting out an email with a picture from some surveillance camera somewhere, whether it's ours or others, saying, anybody know who this person is? And inevitably, I'll see 2 or 3 people go, oh, that's so-and-so. And then they go back and then an investigation confirms that's who it is. And then they go apply for charges for that charge. So it could be they stole something off somebody's porch. And we catch them on our video system and get them identified. And then we go get the charges for them. So a lot of these arrests have to do with the technology that we have. I'm not taking away from the guys and the work they do, because they still have to put the effort in and do all that, but our technology makes it easier to identify people in the past we wouldn't have been able to identify. We would have had something happen, you got the information, maybe got a description, and then we wouldn't have been able to go any further with it. So the guys are really using the technology from the very beginning, and these cases don't even make it to the detective bureau most of the time, because the guys are taking care of them in patrol, and they're just doing a phenomenal job of enforcing the things they have to do, and they're aggressive in the sense that they want to do a good job. They want to close these cases out. So we're seeing that in the numbers that we have here.
Any questions with any of that?
I think, just for me, I think it would be beneficial to understand retail theft, or like which apportionment of theft is retail theft. And I only say that because I feel like in general, out among folks, that's what I hear is becoming more prevalent. is just like the convenience stores, the sort of small scale food product, convenience products being taken from the shelves, and like, at least to some degree, what I hear is some retail chains have changed positions on, like, they may report it to you, but they're like, hey, we're just reporting this, and that's it. We don't want to go through the paperwork. We don't want to, do all the filing. We're just letting you know that X was taken.
And we see that with some of the big stores, the big, chain stores. So we've taken a policy with them that we will literally just run a check on that person, see if they want it, or if there's issues with them that we need to deal with. We provide them with that answer, and then it's up to the store to handle that however they see fit. We don't get involved with taking that as a report, because if they're not willing to do anything to move forward with that investigation, we don't take the actual report on it. We're simply doing a service of seeing, is she wanted for any other crime? Is there a warrant for her?
Right.
If there's not, and we can confirm an identity, maybe we need to do that for them, then they issue their trespassing letters, or they're, they remove them from the store and do those things. They'll do that. And then there's times when they want to prosecute and they want to move forward. So then we'll go out and handle those situations. The smaller stores are a little more adept at wanting to do something. And we've done something over the last 6 months that I've had the guys do. We've been putting some undercover guys into some of the convenience stores and places to address this specific thing. So they'll go out and spend a day at a small convenience store in a neighborhood, and they'll be acting as a customer, or some stores want us to look like we're employees there. And if a theft occurs, then we have officers that are outside that wait for them and get them when they come out. And then we make those arrests and do that. So just trying to keep people honest and keep people on their toes and say, we don't accept that here. So more of that's going to be happening over the next year. We're putting together some 30-day task forces to target and focus on specific things that are going on. Matter of fact, we got one starting next week. That's going to be a variety of different things that we're going to be addressing. Nothing, just one specific item. And one of those is going to be that. We're going to be out in some of the convenience stores and doing those kind of details. We ran some overtime detail 2 Fridays ago. And the guys were out doing some traffic stops and doing some other things, and just turned in a significant amount of drugs and arrests, and people want it, and you got a firearm out of that. So the activity's out there, and we're now getting to the point where we have staffing and go out and be proactive about it instead of just reactive. So we're going to take advantage of that, and this year we're going to be moving forward with that.
Is there any way to get a statistic on arrests and prosecutions? Where how many arrests you make, then how many of those are followed up with a prosecution?
Currently, our database doesn't have that capability.
Okay.
We're hoping with the Axon database that you guys approved
Right.
several weeks ago, when that comes to fruition, we can add that
Yeah.
into our database and start capturing that data. But currently, we don't have the capabilities of doing that.
What about a way to identify, like age? 14 to 16, 16 to 21, 21, that way is
You mean for arrest?
for arrests.
Yeah, we can do that.
I think that would be interesting.
For
Did
the
I take another one of your
theft?
questions? Sorry.
For any,
Are you talking about for like
Crossing that off.
theft?
For anything.
Okay.
Yeah, I think for anything, but I think malicious destruction of property is a good one for an age breakdown. Assaults, aggravated assaults, anything like that. I mean, murders homicides are not. Drugs, maybe, might be, I think you'll find more of the adults, but, I just think that'd be good information for the council to have.
we'll get with Tatiana, our analyst, and see how she can pull that together.
She was
based on the notes.
fantastic, by the way. Tatiana is a great asset to have in that department when it
He's
comes to
really,
data.
he's who pulls these numbers and.
And I can't
tracks
wait to
all
see
this
what she
stuff.
does with Axon, because that's good. And you add the GIS component into it. We're able to beef up the website to make it more transparent. I'd like to have this go out on the website for people to take a look at.
That's why I brought it in here, gave you copies. I know Donna's got to make sure it's made available for the media and.
As she
so,
writes
yeah.
them.
Yeah, there you go. But, yeah, so that people can actually see this is real data. This isn't made up. This is real data. The crisis is not is not showing up.
And I'm going to comment on that.
Thank you.
It's a little hurtful when people think that we have this big crime issue going on in our city, but it doesn't really matter if where you live, you're seeing or
Right.
feeling this. It doesn't matter what the crime numbers mean. So I understand that. I provide this this is just the realization of what the numbers are. But if you're a victim of a crime or you're in an area where a crime's
100%.
occurring,
Right.
those numbers mean nothing to
That's
you.
right.
And I get that. I just don't like when people stoke that fear that haven't experienced that don't live in that kind of a situation.
Right.
That's where it gets to be a little problematic for me is, talk about the facts that you know. People that experience it get to have their own sense of perception of that because they experience it. And I get that.
Right.
That's one homicide compared to 4. Great for us to, hey, we only had 1. We still had 1. It's still bad. Even though the numbers went down in these other categories, we still had that crime happening. But let's be realistic that this is human nature. Crime is always going to occur. We've got the numbers, we're getting the numbers down as low as we can get them. But humans are going to be humans and do bad things to other people.
But even
That's
at
just
those numbers, the arrests are going up.
the arrests are going up.
Which
We're doing
is
everything
what-
we can
which
to
is
try
what
to.
you want to see.
We're doing everything we can to try to lower that as much as we can. And the guys are doing a phenomenal job, and I can't give them any more credit than they got. But they have done a phenomenal job, and the staff is just they're out there really putting in the effort, and I want them to be recognized for the work that they're doing because they've really been doing it. And there were some tough years, and we had very little staff.
Yeah.
You look at those numbers that are even from years back, we had lower staff. We actually produced more numbers then we did when we had more staff years before that.
Plus the investment that the council's approved.
All the
in
technology.
Plus the investment in the staffing.
Yep.
To get staffing back up.
Yep,
It's
all the
also
pay
shows
raises
investment.
allow us to get
Sorry.
good staff, solid staff. We got a lot of great candidates and a lot of really good police officers. Some of the best in the state work for us, and I'm really proud of them.
Let me just say what I want to say. All the things I was going to mention.
You think we focus on this a lot?
I mean, this is definitely helpful, the stats, but is it safe to interpret the data in the following way with these attributes with number of arrests, like I mentioned, COVID year, right? That may have impacted the numbers, economic, where we are as a whole, could possibly impact the numbers. Number of officers was mentioned, technology was mentioned, and also these are preventative measures like seizing the firearms, right? And arrests for CDS and stuff like that. So I want to mention all that real quick before Scott. But is that a safe assessment that these factors interpreting the data, which plays a part, right?
Yeah, there's all kinds of variables, and we saw in the data, 2020, 2021, some numbers and some things went down, but we had lockdown and things were going on, so we saw less reported crime because people weren't out about doing as much. So we knew that. We don't want to just delete that data though. We want you to see it. But yeah, it can be attributed to that, and I completely attributed that. Our arrest numbers wouldn't have been as high that year because we had less incidents that we were going to. So all those things can play into that. There's so many variables that go into that, and the economy, the nature of where we are every year to year has an impact on what's going on with some of these crime data. But if you look at these numbers and you look across the nation, we're right in play with everyone else in terms of the numbers being at these lows that they've been at. And again, statistically, they've been flat for about 15 years. They haven't risen or gone down significantly from a statistical standpoint. But they're still going down. They're still trending down a little bit here and there. And we may have a spike one year for an anonymous reason. We don't know why. That things will just happen. And, you can try everything you want. I mean, stores have loss prevention walking around in the stores. People still steal. It doesn't change anything. We could be on your street and be out on a call there and drive away, and 5 minutes later, someone could do something harmful as soon as we pull away. So it's human nature. And all we're trying to do is mitigate that with the enforcement side of things, but also attribute all the other stuff that we do that's preventative. We're We're helping people when we can. The ordinance stuff we talked about prior to this, helping people get services and do those things. If they get that help, then they don't have a reason to support their habit or try to stay alive because they're homeless by stealing or doing the things they do. We reduce those numbers by helping people as well. You can't just do one without doing the other. You got to do them both.
Which is why you can't just look at the numbers like, oh, look, there's over 2,000 incidents without taking all that in consideration of there's incidents because of human nature and the fact that we know about these incidents because there's arrests and there's data to support that people calling more often maybe to report situations. So you can't just say, this is the number and
Right.
that's it. You have to have some more context behind
This is
it.
a snapshot. This is just to give you a sense of where we are without all those other variables that you can take into account. So I never want to lay my hat just on numbers because you can make the numbers look good for you or not make the numbers. You can interpret the numbers to look good for you. Or you can interpret numbers to not look good for you. So you got to take the good with the bad on that too. Next year we could have some of these incidents go up a little bit, and now we're not at the level. We go from 57 firearms incidents last year to having 65 next year or this year, and people are going to go, hey, what's going on? You're up to 65.
Or that means
Put it in
you
association.
got 65 off the street,
Right.
which is
Right.
great.
But
Right.
but those are things that, ebbs and flows. We understand that in our profession, we understand it's an ebb and a flow. As long as those numbers don't dramatically shoot up and continue to rise, we're going to continue to try to implement and do things we can to keep the numbers low and get them lower. That's our job, to make people feel safe and be safe. We are a very safe city. Whether people want to believe that or not, we are a very safe city. Unless you live a lifestyle, you're most likely not going to suffer from that crime. So can't control domestic violence and things like that, but all those things that we can control, if you don't live in a lifestyle where you could be in a situation to have some of these things happen, you're never going to experience that. But the media, and I say the media in general, news, you name it, plays on all those bad things. So we're all primed to believe that things are just dangerous all the time. And the reality is it's not. That's the reality. It's not. Of these numbers, we handle about 66 to 70,000 calls a year. These are the actual crime numbers we're talking about, out of 66 to 70,000 calls. And when I say 66, 70,000 calls, that's an incident call. It's not how many officers show up. If he and I show up on one call, it's one call. It's not two calls because he's on a call and I'm on the same call. And that number's been about the same. We've been running 60 to 70,000 calls a year for as long as I can remember. So most of those calls are social service driven kind of calls or things like that. They're not real crime calls. So that volume is to me tells a story in itself as well. So we will always try to strive to get these numbers down to zero. That's the goal, but that's not the reality. You're never going to get it to zero. But we want people to feel safe and be safe, and we can work on them being safe. I think we collectively can work on them feeling safe by providing the right information and explaining this stuff in a real way.
I really like,
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I really like what city administrator said about the age. I would like to see that too, especially that age range, even if it's just for the category of theft. Because, and I'm only thinking because, and I don't know how, like, for example, I know you said it's up to the discretion of the manager of the store if they want to prosecute. But I would hate for like a 14-year-old to feel like, they're being, and that's on the record. And, so if we know the age and how can maybe the city step in and kind of
Well,
help with
let me
something like
back
that
up on
versus-
juvenile stuff. So a juvenile record doesn't go past your juvenile
Oh,
age.
yeah.
So if it's on a juvenile record, it stops when you turn 18. That doesn't get disclosed the rest of your life unless you were charged as an adult for a crime you committed as a juvenile. So those things, although it still could have a detrimental effect if you're arrested as a juvenile, I get that. But the record doesn't go further than that. When it comes to the theft stuff,
Like,
we're
do
talking
we
the big
have
chain
say
stores.
So, like, if it's like a child and the store's like, yeah, we want to prosecute, and like it was like literally a.
Not really. Again, these are things that didn't occur in our presence, so it's an investigation. We can't just make the arrest right on the spot. It's they're charged through an application of charges for those things. Typically, a lot of times the stores, if it's an adult and we confirm, we allow them to go get the charges themselves. That way, they go get the charge, they'll show up for court. Where Councilman Alshire talked about, we've charged people before at certain stores, and then the representative from the store doesn't show up for court. If they don't show up for court, the case goes away. There's no victim. They have to be the victim that shows up. We can't be the victim. So we've come to some of those stores to the realization that if you're not showing up, then we're not going to be making arrests on your cases anymore. So if you're calling us, unless you're going to go to court, we're not charging anyone for those cases with you. But most stores are very cooperative. They want to do the right thing. And they've been good. Some of the smaller stores know if it's a child, they try to, work on that. They'll say, can we have the parents come get them? And we'll try to work that out. They come, they try to talk to them. Hey, I'm not going to charge them this time, but they can't steal from my store. It's things like that. But that's a small independent, stores. The big chain stores are big chain stores. They're locked into their corporate policies. They got to do what they're supposed to do.
One more question. I'm sorry to take over the slides. Is there data for where the individuals are from during their arrest? Like, is that pulled as well? Or can it be pulled?
We capture it when we do the initial charging paperwork, when we lock them up and bring them in. I don't think it's easily pulled from the database.
Yeah,
though.
so it might be something that we could create a program. With our new Axon stuff that was approved, it'll be
It will,
super
that
easy.
easy, yeah.
Like right now, our current one is older and it's a little bit hard to get stuff from, but we can certainly try to do that. And I'll talk to Emily or Tatiana and see if that's something she can do for me.
Because I was tongue tied with my words because I know that it says, most of the arrests say where they reside, right?
Right.
And that's the location.
Well, when we arrest someone, where were they arrested, the location where the arrest occurred, and then where do they live? So where can they get their mail? Because there'll be court information going to where they get their mail. We also ask if they, if they're not from here. So if they live somewhere else, they'll give us an address in Frederick or Cumberland or wherever they're from, Monkstown or Boonesboro, whatever. We go usually by their address for that. And if they're homeless, then that's a whole different thing with them. You have to get some kind of an address for them to get their mail. So we would suggest certain places for them maybe to put that down and check with that to get their mail.
Yeah, I'm just curious with
That would be something good to see. You're right.
What demographics is causing
Right.
the issues here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we hear about it, but
like that.
seeing the numbers
Yep.
makes sense.
Yeah, I'll see if I can get
Not the numbers.
We will do the best we can with the current database that we have,
Yeah.
the RMS system that we have. It's a good RMS system. It's just outlived its day. It doesn't do the things we need it to do in today's world. So it's the data goes in, but it's not easily pulled out. The records way of pulling it out is a lot harder. So a lot of times with Tatiana, she'd have to go literally case by case and look at each one individually, a file, and you're talking thousands of cases to look through just to get a piece of data. So if we can pull it, we'll pull the data we can, and we can report that back best we can get it.
Thank you.
I think the age will help us too, in our stakeholder meetings as well, when we have all the stakeholder, all the community partners in, and they can hear the age numbers. That would be really advantageous.
I always ask her about the theft one, since there were so many, there was 700 some. I don't know how she's gonna be able to pull that together to figure out what that age range is gonna be like, because that might be pretty broad.
Yeah.
It may be from, 12 to 65, and
Yeah.
she may be able to pull exact numbers in terms of how many of those 700 some were a certain age. or
Right,
something like
right.
that, if she can. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Anybody else?
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Sure, thank you.
Absolutely.
Officer Lewis, I do want to say thank you for always being present at the Neighborhood First meeting.
Sure.
And definitely being vocal, because I know a lot of the questions are just repeat questions, and I just listened and watched you humbly answer the questions, even if it was 10 of the same question. So I just want to say thank you for being present.
Sure, absolutely. It's a pleasure, and while it may not be my problem, because I don't live on that street, it's still a big problem to them, and I think we have to understand that, and so we actually made a lot of progress on that today. Yes, yeah, I'll fill you guys in on email, but we made a lot of progress. I think that we're probably gonna remedy that problem here very soon.
Good, thank you.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
Good. Thanks, guys. All right, our city administrator is going to take the next two items. First one's the renewal of the Ferguson Group contract for 2026.
Yeah, these are quick, Mayor. Bringing a vote to you next week to renew the Ferguson Group's contract to do federal lobbying. We had a pretty good year with them last year in our first foray into federal lobbying efforts. TFG helped us in the appropriation of $1.85 million for two projects. One of those was $850,000 for bridge repair, and the other was $1 million for stormwater infrastructure repairs. Those are going through the appropriations process now, which at the federal level is never easy and never quick, but we're hoping to have a decision on the bridge repair by the end of the month, and then the Transportation Committee will take up I'm sorry, not the transportation, but appropriations will take up the stormwater upgrades, hopefully before spring. There's, as seems to happen all the time now, there's always threat of federal government shutdown again at the end of the month. I talk with the Ferguson Group twice a month, and they feel pretty confident that things are going to work out this time, and there won't be a close. It's an election year. Of course, nobody wants to run on the fact that the government has closed down twice in the past year. So there was a 5% increase over the contract from last time, so it'll be a $76,600 charge. When you look at that versus the $1.85 million that we'll get in appropriation, I think we're getting a pretty good deal. They've also hooked us up with a lot of contacts in DC. We went down and visited down in DC over the summer. Met a lot of people that we continue to have contacts with that otherwise we would not have met. And they're a great supplemental resource to have besides the our actual representative staffs. Aniston does a great job from Delaney's office, and Robin Summerfield does a great job from Van Hollen's office. So we keep working with them, but also these folks have been invaluable. So I look forward to hoping that you approve this vote for next week. And I'll just go on to the next one. I don't have anything for you as far as over the holidays. There was a Washington Post article stating that Hagerstown was on the list to be a potential facility to house illegal immigrants that are arrested through the ICE process. I can tell you that we have not had any contact, discussions, smells of anything coming from the federal government that they were going to come to Hagerstown and utilize one of our warehouses for one. Not that it would matter to the federal government, but zoning would be an issue. Utilities would be an issue. These warehouses are built to store product, not people. So that would be an issue. And we just don't have space in our warehouses. Our warehouses are pretty full. I'm not going to speak for Washington County and what those warehouses out in the county have, but it would not make a lot of sense for them to look in the city of Hagerstown for that. And if there is any indication that something is moving along those lines, the Ferguson Group is aware, our representatives are aware, and they will let us know, and I will immediately get back to you all should there be any further information on that. But for right now, just to make it clear, no, we have not had any contact. There are no plans to put one of these centers in Hagerstown.
Question, why do you think how and why that was even, especially to go in the newspaper like that?
No clue. No clue. Sometimes I wonder in politics and it being an election year, if someone just didn't throw the trial balloon out there and see what kind of fuss was made. And I mean, that's the way a lot of things work, it seems, anymore. But as to a reason for it, I have no clue.
Anybody else? Okay, City Administrator.
Just one last, a couple of things. Head to Annapolis tonight for opening day tomorrow. The mayor and I will be down there tomorrow. Great time to catch up with people, meet the new folks that are down there. MML will be having a reception tomorrow with the city of Annapolis, and Legislative Committee will start meeting tomorrow. It's going to be a very interesting year when it comes especially to budget and appropriations. So we'll see where all of that goes. Juvenile justice is going to be a major topic. Of course, affordable housing is always going to be a major topic. And the senator and our representative delegate Schindler have already said they would like to continue on with the every week catch-ups, at least before crossover day. Because once you get to crossover day, everything, all the new stuff's done. It's just a matter of voting from one house to the, from one chamber to the other. So that will start tomorrow for 90 days. Secondly, I've been hearing a lot, and I've experienced it, the rise in electric bills. There is no doubt electric bills are as high as I've seen them. I have electric heat. I'm on the average payment plan, and my bill still went up $60, which is pretty high. Purchase power, which is where the main charge comes from, is the cost of electric that we pay to Potomac Edison to retransmit that electric to our customers. That went up just last month for me, almost $150. And that's a lot. That's more than I can ever remember. All I can tell you is this. The cost of power is going up everywhere. Doesn't help us, but it's just, we are not alone when it comes to the cost of power. That is going to be one of the major topics in Annapolis, is how to try to control the increasing cost of power from the major distributors. PJM, which Nathan was in here a couple months ago talking about, PJM, which was one of the main providers of power throughout the Eastern Seaboard. They will attribute it to the increased demand that come from data centers and other such facilities. You'll get debates on that. I don't know. The only thing I know is electric bills are high. And when it's cold, they're going to be high, especially if you have electric heat. I would just ask anyone that is not on an average payment plan to contact our customer service group or go visit them down the street at 32 North Potomac and look to get on the average payment plan. Or if you are eligible for assistance, look to get on assistance. Assistance is also being decreased from a state, which the federal level is what funds the state, and we get trickled down. And those funds are not as plentiful as they used to be. But still, it's worth the time to inquire about that. And again, the average payment program, I can tell you that if I hadn't been on the average payment plan, my cost for power, because I have electric baseboard heat, would have been over $750 for 1 month. It's crazy. Average payment plan takes and spreads that out over 13 months. So it's not a budget, it's an average. So it will fluctuate a little bit through the year, but I just ask anyone that is having trouble with those payments, average payment plan, if you're eligible, contact customer service and have them provide you the information on where you can inquire on assistance. That's it for me.
Councilwoman Anderson.
Just a question for me. Do we as a city have any jurisdiction or say so on whether or not ICE officers can make any arrests within the city of Hagerstown? Or?
We don't. Federal Trump, no pun intended. Federal trumps local.
So if they came here, they would have jurisdiction to do what they want.
You do what they want.
Is that it?
That's it.
Okay. Councilwoman Bell.
Yes, I have a couple things. With the amount of businesses that are struggling downtown and the couple that have closed, I'm making this comment because it goes back to the beginning of the administration where I felt like what should be put into play is not just how easy it is to open a business, but how we keep our businesses in business. Even if that looks like workshops for our current businesses to come in and see what's available, just to help them know that they have the support to where, whether if there's grants available, financial workshops, just anything like that, that can help them stay into business. I feel like that's more important than knowing that they can come and get a storefront, but how do we keep them in business, especially with the Doghouse closing. The Real Deal Jamaican restaurant is also closing. It was one other one that's closing as well. I can't think. Just even with the Boba Spot closing, it just seems like we're getting that wave. And I'm saying that because just within the last week, I've had 3 people contact me and say, I want to open a business. How do I go about it? What worries me is you get the business and then you can't stay into business. So that is my main thing, is how do we keep these businesses in business to where they can take care, I know we can't make it so they can take care of their families, but a lot of the businesses, they're trying to take care of their families. And what does that look like for the city, even if we're just providing group sessions or, like I know we have the downtown business meeting and that's just kind of talking about everything downtown. But what if we implement something to where we're also having workshops to where we teach them, not me per se, but we're teaching them how to budget or how to figure out their utilities, or how do we talk to these rental agencies that are extremely high, and how do we, even if we bring them into the conversation too.
So when folks come into economic development, we offer them whatever guidance we can provide them, but we can also send them to the Small Business Administration, which has an office downtown, which is really where the trainings, Western Maryland Consortium has training, small business trainings. SCORE also has small business trainings. But here's the one thing that, and I've had conversations with economic development, with Brittany, with Amanda. If you want to open a business anywhere, right? You have to make sure that you have the financing available to at least allow that business to thrive for a period of time. The city cannot be your lifeline to staying in business. We can help you with incentives, we can help you with education, but the city cannot be relied on to keep you in business, to do your marketing, to be your bank. That's not what our job is. We love to help. We love to help provide resources to send for those things, but a solid business plan has to be there, especially in this economy.
Exactly.
That will allow you to survive through the downtimes, right? Because there's going to be downtimes, but then also to take advantage of the good times and when you're going to have business, because a lot of places you might go to a restaurant and it'd be packed and they have one waitress or they have one bartender. And those people are saying, well, why would I come here? It takes me, 20 minutes to get a drink, or it takes me 40 minutes to get my meal. That's not being able to take advantage of a good situation. By the same token, you don't want to have 3 bartenders on a Tuesday evening and there'll be 4 people in the whole place the whole evening. So those are the kind of things. There are a multitude of resources available to folks that our economic development group and Brittany will direct you to. But also, Brittany does a pretty good job through the Main Street program, trying to provide that kind of help also to the Main Street downtown
business people. But we just don't want it specific to downtown. We want to make it available to everyone within the corporate boundaries. I just always say, contact economic development. Chris Simmerling is always available. He's kind of our guy there.
Right.
And he's always available to try to help folks out. And sometimes there's just circumstances where a restaurant or a retail place gets either in over their head, or they have landlord issues, or other personal issues come around, and they just can't stay in business. Marketing also is huge. Juniper Cafe. I mean, how many posts a day do they put out
He's
there?
gonna post at least 3
All the
times
time.
a day, every day.
And it's one of the best cheesesteaks I've ever had in that place. And he takes advantage of being able to do that. I wish he could go to a lot of other places, not just downtown, but throughout town, and be that, and because that's the kind of marketing that gets people into your business and gets people to come back. Because you don't just want them in once, you want them to come in twice, 3 times, and make it a routine.
But even with that, even if it is just helping somebody, or, because I know Brittany does an amazing job, but even if it's a group discussion on how to market.
Sure.
How to make sure that you're posting every day, 3 times a day, to make sure you get your foot traffic in there. So that's all, I'm just trying to think of different ways, because it's heartbreaking to see so many of our businesses that, we might have thought that was really flourishing and doing well have to close their doors.
Yep.
And that's what the big spaces downtown. So now, once again, one of our big spaces are closed. So that was just with that. I just, always,
sure.
Whether if I'm a current business owner or not, I'm always a business owner trying to think of different ways. Also, another thing, I was thinking maybe we could get the fella, I can't remember his name, but he came and talked to us about solar energy, maybe getting him back on the schedule so we could hear more about that. And also downtown at one point, I'm not sure if they're still on, but they up Franklin, it was lined with the banners of the vets.
Mm-hmm.
Are we able to do that in other parts of town?
That's not one of our programs. That was a program that was run by Tim Thompson.
Okay.
I don't know if he's still doing that. I'm sure if he is, he's not doing it anymore.
You can't get hold of him.
Yeah.
But Mercersburg Printing prints those. People will go to Mercersburg Printing and get those banners, and then the city hangs them.
Because I was thinking, and I was already thinking this, but then a fella contacted me about having Jonathan Street lined with all of their vets that are from that area too. So I thought that'd be a good way to just bring that area, up.
Probably the same gentleman, he approached me as well, and I said the same.
Yeah,
thing.
he
They
did
had-
tell me he talked
yeah, I
to
said
you
the city
too.
would put the banners up if they got them made, so.
Yeah,
Oh,
absolutely.
okay, nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can give them the information for Mercersburg Printing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Also, sorry, I'm being long-winded. I wanted to see if we could talk, and it might be Mr. Bachmiller about, I know before you pass over Bethel Street, after you pass over Bethel Street, that's when it ends the commercial, what's allowed in that area. Can we have a discussion on that and see if I don't want to say it, well, I know it was rezoned. Is it a way to get it unrezoned? Like
If you-
unrezoned?
You send me what the addresses are that you're looking at, or?
Well,
if you-
there's no specific address, but what he did tell me is once you pass over Bethel,
It becomes
then it comes,
residential?
yes, it's only residential.
Okay.
So I was just thinking if we
talk
could,
with him
because who
about
knows
that.
what the future could
Yeah,
hold for
sure.
that area. Also, I'm really excited, and the mayor was with me at the meeting in Bethel Gardens, that one of their biggest concerns is just that house on Bethel Street. That's why I said thank you to Lieutenant Officer
2426?
Lewis.
We need-
Like
that's-
the one thing that, and
We're going to be
I'm,
coming back to you with a recommendation on what to do with 2426.
and I think it's it. Oh,
Because there's another fire there today, yesterday,
was it? Really?
Friday.
And that's it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Burnett?
Nothing tonight.
Oh,
I already did it all.
Yeah, he already told you already.
Sorry.
Well, I'll do something positive. I got this letter that was wrote from somebody from Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, and it kind of ties into what the fellows were talking about on the 10-year revitalization plan about promoting the city. But this one comes up and says, Mayor McIntyre, thank you for taking the time to read my letter. I am writing your office on behalf of my nephew, Ben, who with myself spent several weeks vacation this past summer in Maryland with a special visit to Hagerstown to visit family. Ben and myself were quite impressed with the scope of activities we found in the Hagerstown area. Ben is back at school and is preparing a project report on Hagerstown, Maryland. And he asked our office to give him a little desk flag, and we sent him a little coin as well, but the 250th anniversary coin. But just taking the time to write the letter saying how impressed he was with Hagerstown was really, really cool thing to hear. So I just wanted to put that out.
Nice.
Do I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I got a second?
Second.
Any discussion on any items tonight? Okay, we're adjourned.